Joyous Rising family. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. It is Wednesday, March the 29th, 2023, and the time is 1:11 p.m. I'm coming on today to do an impromptu video about a question that someone asked me, and that is in regards to the RV, the heart scans, and the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. So they asked me to do a brief video, so here I am. Basically, most of you all know that the National Economic Security and Reformation Act has a global version called the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. And this act was signed into law in 2000 under the Clinton administration. So it was signed into law against the wishes of those who were in power. What happened basically was that the military has a faction that's considered the white hats of the military, went into the White House, stormed into the White House, and forced Clinton at gunpoint, they say, to sign the National Economic Security and Reformation Act into law. That law was supposed to be announced from the Pentagon actually September the 11th, 2001. The reason that year was chosen is because 9/11, like a lot of numbers, is very significant in certain circles, like in terms of Freemasonic circles and people who study and understand and overstand numerology, like the number 11, because 11 is a portal. It's like a doorway. You go in with the new, you go in, yes, and out with the old, in with the new. And also 9 is a number of completion. So the date in which the Nasar Jassar was supposed to be announced was September the 11th, 2001. It never happened. Instead of allowing that to happen, what that administration did that was in power was they got with their cronies, their gangster banksters, and the people that were in power. They took the gold out of the towers, and some people didn't show up for work that day. Unfortunately, to our detriment, they imploded the towers and blamed it on our Middle Eastern brothers and sisters and caused more division again between the Christians and the Muslim community. Caused us to fight and use that as a time to infringe upon our freedoms. And this is when you start getting heavy surveillance, which we already had big brother, so to speak, surveilling us and watching everything we did. This is now when we went to your airports after 9/11 and they started doing all these searches and making you feel uncomfortable, doing all these body checks, hair checks, and things like that, making it harder for you to travel. And in fact, you couldn't even go to Canada without a passport anymore. So they created more laws. Now, they took the gold out of the towers because the gold was supposed to be used to pay off the debt. So again, for those just checking in, somebody asked me to please just do a brief video on Nasara Jassara, what it is, why it is, will everybody have access, and why do you have to have your heart scan in order to use the money coming from the benefits? So I won't be on long, family. Thank you. Keep checking in and talking to each other. So they took the gold out the towers. People didn't show up. They imploded the towers. Then they sent a CGI computer generated imagery or some type of fake plane, an image of a plane into the Pentagon, but they actually did some type of demolition on the Pentagon. I don't know if they imploded or exploded it, but what it looked like to us watching was that a plane went into the Pentagon. And the reason why they struck the Pentagon was because the announcement for Jassar and Nasar was supposed to come from the Pentagon, excuse me. So that was in 2001 where the announcement was supposed to be made, and it did not happen. So then the white hats of the military had to go into overdrive in terms of taking down the deep state and trying to get us to have our freedoms restored to us and to restore the republic. So again, the National Economic Security and Reformation Act has an acronym. It's called NASARA. The global version of that would be JASARA. That's GESARA. GESA. Yes. And I have to be very careful about what I say because this platform does not like for you to mention those words. So what are the benefits and can everybody receive them? This is coming from a video that I did a while ago where, that's me saying namaste. This was years ago, but before people were talking about it. This was in 2019, but I started talking about it in 2017, and somebody had asked me to do a video then, and so people are asking me to do a video now. So the National Security and Reformation Act provides many benefits for us. The reason why we are receiving these benefits is because the people in power, the people, the so-called elites that usurped authority from our government, created their own government called the United States of America Incorporated. It's a corporation. That corporation is actually owned by the Vatican, and it was registered in Delaware as a nonprofit religious organization because, again, it's owned by the Vatican. They had their own constitution called the Constitution of the United States Incorporated. We over here are the United States of America, the Republic, and our Constitution is called the Constitution for the United States of America. Well, what happened over time is people realized that we were being taken advantage of and mistreated. There were a group of farmers who said not only are people being mistreated, but we are being mistreated as a group of farmers. There's a reason why I'm talking about the farmers as it relates to Nasara. Farmers were tired of being taken advantage of. Farmers are the backbone of our nation. The farmers make sure that we're fed. They make sure that we have our nutrients right through the foods, through the milk, through the cattle, through even vegetation. Well, the farmers were tired of the gangster banksters who were also owned by the same elite family members that usurped authority from our republic. They were tired of being forced to plant Monsanto seeds. They were tired of being forced to feed cows corn, which is not a natural diet for cows. They were tired of having to inject hormones into our animals and our poultry. And they were forced to do this if they wanted loans from the gangster banksters, which were owned by the elites who controlled not only America and the United States corporation, but who controlled the world. So the farmers took the Federal Reserve gangster banksters to court along with the United States Incorporated. They took it to a world court. And what happened when they told them about, having to use these seeds, having to use these hormones, having to poison us, or either they couldn't get loans. And if they got loans, they had exorbitant usury or interest rates impacted upon those loans. And even then, whether they complied or not, the gangster banksters could say, well, you're not complying with all of our rules, so we'll just take your land. So they were stealing the land of the farmers. They were even killing off some of them that would complain, forcing them to poison the food and exacting usury or high interest rates, which is against the Constitution upon the farmers. So the farmers hired lawyers. They took them to the lower courts and then Supreme Court, but their lawyers would end up dead. The farmers would end up dead. So they said, we have to take it to a higher court. And they went to the world courts. When they went to the world courts, it was determined that the United States Incorporated had indeed mistreated our farmers, exacted interest rate, which is called usury, which is against the Constitution. So they were told that there will come a time, since they won their case, that the republic will be restored. Republic, our lawful government. Now I'm going fast because somebody asked, can you just do a brief video? You guys know I like to speak. So they were told that yes, the government had been overtaken, but when the republic would be returned and restored, and we will move to a gold standard. Farmers were told that in the 90s, we will be returned to a gold standard because gold is the lawful money of our Constitution and of our country. And everybody around the world recognizes gold as money. When this happens, you will be compensated, is what the farmers were told. But during the interim, they discovered, these people who were looking at the case said, not only had the farmers been mistreated, but so had the people in America, we the people, as well as sovereign entities or people all over the world have been mistreated by the gangster banksters that the Federal Reserve had created or worked with. which was in alignment with the United States Incorporated and those corporate entities that controlled the entire world. So they were told that not only will you all be compensated, but the whole world has been mistreated by the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve. We're going to dismantle all of them, and we're going to come up with a way to remedy this issue. And what they came up with was a law called the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, and the global version, the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. So I know people want me to do a very brief video, but this case is serious, and it's extensive, because we've been enslaved over a long period of time, like not only decades, but hundreds of years. So it has taken a long time to dismantle that system. And sometimes it takes longer than 10 minutes to talk about what it is and what the benefits are. So here briefly are some of the benefits. It will zero out all credit cards, all of people all over the world, mortgages, and all bank debt. And this is due to the illegal banking and government activities and illegal banking practices. Not just illegal, but unlawful. So illegal means it's against their statutes and codes in their own policies, according to their Constitution of the United States Incorporated. Unlawful means that it is against the laws of our land, against the Constitution. So it's going to zero out everybody's credit card debt. All mortgages will be done away with. Any bank, student loans, bank loans, car loans, all those loans will be done away with. It will abolish the income tax. So this is why we see the IRS being defunded. Now, I've done extensive videos on the IRS being defunded, and what I'll do is I'll put those videos in the description section. But again, this is a brief video, so I'm not going to go into how we can see that actually happening. But we do know that the IRS has asked people, or millions of Americans in 22 states, to not even file their taxes. You can Google those articles and see them for yourself. It will abolish the IRS completely. And this is why House Resolutions 24 and 25 were actually introduced under number 45. Those resolutions were to monitor both the IRS and the Federal Reserve and to dismantle them. Now, most recently, we actually saw another resolution or House bill being introduced to completely abolish the IRS. So we see this happening before our eyes. You just have to know where to go to research it. It will create a 14% flat rate, non-essential, new items only sales tax revenue for government. So we're only going to have a flat tax, but the IRS and income tax, no more. Now, it used to be a time when we did business with other countries that we would tax those other countries. But what they started doing is stop taxing those other countries, and they turned it in on us, we the people, and started forcing us to pay them taxes. And they would say this unlawful government called the United States Incorporated, again, which is not a government at all. They're just a group of so-called elite family members, bloodline family members, people who think they're better than us, some of which are not even human, or these non-human entities and their so-called human hybrids mixed with human DNA, and their minions, which are human. They created their own government, right? And they force us to pay we the people, to pay taxes. And they claim it's to fix the roads and it's to do certain things, to fix pollution and clean up the water, none of which actually happens. That money actually went to the Queen. Now, of course, the Queen actually owned us, but not only the Queen, but the Vatican, because this is actually, or was, the Roman Empire. As an aside, the Roman Empire, the pseudo-Roman Empire, the neo-Roman Empire, whatever you want to call it, has been dismantled. So rest assured, we are free and we've been liberated. And this video is just a precursor to the things that you're going to see to come this weekend as we go into April, because we are going to see with our own eyes, including the normies, that all this has been done behind the scenes, but we are being liberated. So they forced us to pay taxes, and then those taxes went to take care of things. All that money went to the Queen. Now we know that number 45 took power from the Queen when he went over there, right? He went over there where the queen is, and he actually walked in front of her when he went to have a conversation with her. And in a longer video, I will bring those videos up so you can see them. And then not only did he walk in front of her, she stood back and ushered him in front of her. And then he went and he looked at the guard to inspect the guard, which is really unusual for a president of a whole nother country from America to go over there and inspect the guard. And the military on her lawn was the United States military. That's how we knew that he had taken power and usurped power back from her. Number 4, it will increase benefits to senior citizens. Now let's go back a little bit about us being paying homage to the queen and being owned and controlled by the Vatican. We know that the Roman Empire, the pseudo-Roman Empire, or our empire, the United States Incorporated, which was owned by the Vatican, is over. And we know by watching signs and symbols. We saw just certain precursors to knowing that that was over. But the way I knew it was completely over for the Roman Empire was when the Eagles lost the Super Bowl. You had the Eagles against the Chiefs. So the eagle represents, it's the national symbol, or the symbol period of the Roman Empire. The eagle is. And there are many reasons why they chose the eagle, because the eagle is one of the best predators. The eagle knows how to pick off its prey, and I've done extensive videos on that. So when you saw the eagles lose, that was our clue. That was our sign and symbol that it was over for this Roman Empire. It had collapsed, and now power has been given back to the people, the indigenous people on the land, the chiefs on the land. So that was just an aside. It will zero out all credit card. Yes, abolish income tax, abolish the IRS, increase benefits to senior citizens. So senior citizens that are receiving money now, you'll receive more money. It returns us to constitutional law. So all courts all over our country, and even courts in other countries, they have been operating unlawfully, which is why you saw lawyers have Esquire behind their name. Esquire is the title of nobility. Nobles are people who work for the British crown. They don't work for we the people, unbeknownst to them. I don't believe lawyers know that they work for the British crown. Maybe they do, but I highly doubt it. They have to pass the bar, the British, I think, accredited registry. Why does this start off with British accredited registry? British, because it is owned. The bar is a part of the British crown, the British throne. It has to do with paying homage to and supporting the queen. You're not concerned about we the people. So you keep wondering, how am I hiring these attorneys? And it seems like they're all friends and they're working with the judges, and they make these deals because it's not about you and me. It never has been, right? Unbeknownst to most of your friends and family members who are lawyers, they work for the crown. They think they're just doing their job. So when Nasara and Dasara comes into fruition, after our republic is restored or returned, all lawyers and judges have to be retrained in constitutional law, and all governments and courts, around the world will return to constitutional law, or the law of their land, and not the laws of the British crown. Now, most of you know by now that the Queen has passed, which she actually passed years ago, but they just announced that the last year for the people who weren't awake. So they have to do things in segments, right? In part. So and do it in such a way where people can understand and people can digest all of this information. So it will return us to constitutional law, and you will retrain all of those judges and lawyers in constitutional law. And here's another aside. Your congressmen and women, many of them have Esquire behind their names because they're attorneys. They cannot serve. They cannot serve as lawmakers because according to our Constitution, you cannot have a title of nobility and create laws. Why is that? Because if you have a title of nobility, you're not concerned about creating fair and laws that make sense. All you're concerned about is creating your statutes and codes and policies that benefit the throne or the queen or the elite and people in power. So even your congressmen and women, they have to step down. Many of them have been taken out already because of their nefarious activities that deal with children and laws against humanity, period. So they will not be serving when Nasara and Jassara comes into fruition. It establishes new presidential and congressional, you know, that word ELECTIONS that I'm not allowed to say here on YouTube because they will flag your video if you speak against those unlawful activities. It will monitor those activities. When you vote certain people in, it will monitor all that. It will create a new U.S. Treasury currency called the rainbow currency, but it will be backed by assets or commodities such as gold, silver, palladium, platinum, and other precious metals. It will initiate a new treasury bank system that's in alignment with constitutional law. So our banking system that we've had in the past actually did things that were against us, like having us to sign promissory notes, which were really just a way for us to, unbeknownst to us, give them power of attorney to access all of our bonds and our trusts and pay themselves out of that trust. Meanwhile, they're telling you that you owe the bank. So they would pay themselves through your trust, because each of us, when we were born, had a trust created for us in our names. All of us, all across the planet, that we don't even know about. Our birth certificates were created and turned into a bond and traded on the New York Stock Exchange and other stock exchanges, and it accrued interest. So we all had trust created in our name. We had bonds, we had accounts, bank accounts. We all do. We just don't know about it. Most of us, some of us on this channel know. But so when these people did these unlawful banking behaviors, they would say they're giving us a loan, but they weren't lending us any. They didn't give you money. Okay. So you would sign these so-called promissory notes that gave them power of attorney to access our trust. And then you still had to pay them and pay them interest. So we had to create a whole new banking system that's in alignment with constitutional law. It's against the Constitution to charge us interest or usury. It will eliminate the Federal Reserve System. Now, I already told you that there were bills introduced. Look up House Resolutions 24 and 25. Both of them monitored. One of them monitored the Federal Reserve, and one of them monitored the IRS. I think House Resolution 25 monitored the IRS. HR 24 monitored the Federal Reserve System. Those bills were introduced as precursors to totally eliminate the Federal Reserve System, which is the 10th bullet point of Nasara. Number 11, it will restore us to financial privacy. 12, we talked about how it will retrain judges and lawyers in constitutional law. And that's very important because most of your lawyers and judges do not know about constitutional law unless they specialize in constitutional law, which many of them don't do because it's not lucrative. And because we were not operating under constitutional law, we were operating under maritime law or admiralty law. So to go back a little bit, you had two governments working side by side. You had the United States Incorporated, a corporation, again, that was founded in 1871 or incorporated by a group of bloodline families who decided that they were better than everybody else. They were elite. Gangster banksters is what we call them. They took over or usurped authority from the republic, our lawful government, and just act like this government did not exist. They created their own constitution called the Constitution of is nefarious, the United States Incorporated. They have a corporation that is registered in Delaware as a nonprofit religious organization, religious because it is owned by the Vatican. That's over here. Over here, you have the United States of America, the Republic, the lawful government. This is still operating. They were operating concurrently, side by side. We have our own constitution called the Constitution for the United States of America, the Republic, not to be confused with of. So you had these two running side by side. Now, you have some people operating in America that understood and overstood that this government was still up and running. So they operated as being sovereign beings operating on the land that operated actually or did business in the private sector. They're not citizens because citizens are slaves. Citizens are people that are controlled by the United States of America Incorporated. These people were operating in the public. They would create trust to protect their assets. They don't pay taxes. They're not unlawful because the law says that you don't have to pay taxes. Okay. The IRS is an unlawful corporate entity. The IRS, the FBI, all those three-letter organizations was created by and funded by and in cahoots with this nefarious government, the United States of America, or USA Incorporated. Okay. Now, these people over here that were operating in their sovereignty, they don't pay taxes. They have trust. They protect their assets. They don't have driver's license. They don't need to. You don't need a license to travel. You only need a license to drive or to conduct commerce. Now, there are videos that are extensive that will go into detail about that, but I just want to mention that to you so you can know there are two governments operating side by side, still working together. Well, that were working together. But when the farmers took this entity to court and it was determined that not only were the farmers mistreated, but so were we, the people in America, and we, the people all over the world, they established the white hats of the military, the good men and women of the military that wanted to restore our freedoms. They and the Nasara White Knights. These are leaders all over the world, or people that are not only leaders, but professionals all over the world in every segment of society, the Nasara White Knights, who work together with the white hats of the military to dismantle this entity so that this entity can be restored, the Republic of America and the republics all across the world. So having said that, what you would do is establish peace throughout the world under Nasara and Jasara, because what most people don't understand and overstand is that even before the farmers took the nefarious entity in the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve to the world courts, there were people operating behind the scenes. There were different dynasties and families who have been storing up gold. There have been families that understood and overstood that the planet was being overtaken a long time ago. So what they did with these dynasties were their children that's in our time, they said, okay, we have gold, we have different commodities that can offset all the debt that the planet owes, right? And so we're going to do that. Behind the scenes, what these dynasties did that were sovereign entities and lawful people all over the planet, they got together and they made an agreement. So 209 countries made an agreement behind the scenes to have global peace. This happened years ago. So when we talk about 209 countries that agree behind the scenes to return to the gold standard, we're talking about also these countries agreeing not only to return to the gold standard through what we now call Project Sandman, but we also had those entities or countries behind the scenes that agreed to world peace. Under the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act, JSARA, and the national version of that here in America, the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, we're going to have world peace. No wars, no fighting, no military going to different countries and saying, if you don't use my currency, we're going to send our men and women over there to destroy your country. No more is that allowed to happen. What else? It will initiate the first phase of worldwide prosperity distribution of vast wealth, which has been accumulated for many decades. Remember, I was talking about those kingdoms, those dynasties. Not only has this wealth been accumulated for many decades, but for centuries. Now, a lot of us only think in terms of years, like what I'm going to do tomorrow, what I'm going to do in the next 5 years. These dynasties, these regimes, these sovereign families, that the benevolent families operating behind the scenes, they've been accumulating wealth for centuries. Now, they have decided to put forth their wealth to help to free the planet by paying off the debts, or just not only pay off debts, but to eject trillions of dollars into the economy. 45 kept talking about that when he was at the forefront leading the country. We know he's still leading the country behind the scenes, but he talked about how we will inject trillions of dollars into the economy, and that will be to help humanity, to distribute vast wealth, to help humanity, to clean the waters, to clean the air, to stop the chemtrails, to clean the food and all that. The law requires that the farmer's claims be paid first before the general public receive funds. Why will the farmers be paid first? Because we owe the farmers. We owe the farmers for being so courageous and standing up for themselves and for we the people. So they're the ones who took the United States Incorporated to court and won their cases, despite the fact that many of them lost their lives, that many of their attorneys lost their lives, and many of their family members lost their lives. So they will be paid first when the SARA comes into fruition. It will release enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. So a lot of you know about the RV. The RV is a revaluation of currencies, and we're going to have that and a global currency reset. I'll talk about that in a second. But before all of that even happened, a revaluation of currencies, that knowledge came out that all currencies will be returned to their normal value once all the gold has been returned to their countries. Once they can get control of the gold that had been stolen from their countries and sent to the Vatican, sent to the Pope, sent to the Queen, and sent to wherever it went when people would come through war and steal their assets and their commodities. Once all that money and gold was repatriated back to their countries, now they can back their currencies. That's what a revaluation is. We're revaluing our currencies. We are restoring our currencies back to its normal value based on the resources that our country has. Before that knowledge even came out about an RV, that we're doing a global currency reset, where we're going to destroy the dollar, bring the United States dollar to zero, and all dollar denominated assets will plunge to zero. Before we knew that would happen, we had people going around to certain churches. Maybe before we the people knew. Now people in power knew, the white hats of the military knew, benevolent people knew that we were going to have a revaluation of currency and global currency reset. But before we knew about it, they knew about it. And they would go around to different churches like the River. I think there's a church called the River Church in somewhere in Florida. I think it might be Middle Florida. We had these entities, the white hats of the military, Nasara White Knights, to go around to various churches and talk to people about our Constitution being restored, our republic being restored and returned, constitutional law being restored and returned, and trillions of dollars being ejected into the economy in the 1980s and the 1990s. And when these people went around to the churches, they identified certain people to be not sovereign, but to be stewards over the certain monies that would be distributed to these churches and these benevolent organizations. But not only did they identify the people, but they said you can apply. When you apply, they had to bring their identifications, they had to bring their humanitarian ideas, and they had to talk about how those ideas would be implemented. This is the release of enormous sums of money that will be ejected into the economy for humanitarian purposes. Most of us that have currencies like the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong, the Venezuelan bolivar, Indonesian rupiah, Indian rupee, Afghanistan, I think they have a dinar. Those of us who hold certain of those currencies, we know that those currencies will be revalued or returned to their natural value and probably go up in value once all the gold has been returned to those countries. And so many of us will use our money when we get it, when we do our exchanges and we get a return for our investment. A lot of us will do humanitarian projects, especially if you also have the Zimbabwean Zim, because the return on that currency will be enormous. So we're thinking that we're the only ones doing humanitarian projects. No, my loves, there have been people that's been waiting on this since the 1980s. Some I've even heard since the 1970s. There have been people that's been knowing about this nefarious group of bloodline families that's controlled the whole world along with their gangster banksters for a long time. They were contacted through their churches and benevolent organizations a long time ago. Okay, they've had their humanitarian projects a long time ago that they had to present to people who were in power that you and I just didn't know about. For example, Gold Star Mother Susan Price talked to us about how she had humanitarian projects that had to pass inspection and be approved by people that were under 45's administration. Who was the one, Dr. Ben Carson, who was over housing and he was over urban development. He was selected because he's a benevolent person. He was, yes, he's a neurosurgeon, but he's also a part of the Nasara White Knights. Okay, so he and a group of benevolent entities went to the River Church, which Gold Star Mother Susan Price is a member. She had to have her project actually approved by him. That not only that church, but many churches, many people, but these people had to go through a clearance. They had to be checked out thoroughly. They had to prove that they were benevolent. They had to prove that they had a good heart. They had their families, their bloodlines had to be examined. So some of you get upset when people talk about examining a bloodline before marriage, examining your background before marriage. That's because you don't understand and understand how serious this is. When it comes to restoring your wealth and protecting what you have, you need to look at the people that you surround yourself with. You need to look at the people that you talk to. You need to make sure that your children who they marry, they have a good, healthy, clean background. You need to make sure their bloodline is clean. And what I mean by bloodline, that they're not a bunch of nefarious people that do bad things to humans, that they're not thieves, that they don't take advantage of people, they don't traffic. You need to make sure that you do not allow that to creep into your bloodline. You need to make sure that these people that you're allowing into your family, whether it's through marriage or you're just bringing them in or grafting them in, that they don't steal, that they are concerned about humanity, that they are good stewards over resources, or else you're opening up yourself to being taken advantage of. You're opening up your family and your posterity, your future generations, to being taken advantage of. You're opening up your bloodline to have their money stolen from them. This is very serious. A lot of you just go around sexing anybody, mixing your bloodline with anybody, mixing your semen and your seed with everybody, letting anybody copulate all inside your body. This is very serious when it comes to protecting your energy, protecting your family, protecting who you are as a God being, protecting your wealth. You need to be serious about life and stop looking up to idols and entertainers and athletes who are paid to take you off course, paid to teach you to be whores and thoughts and hoes and pimps and all these nefarious things and traffickers, paid to be lascivious. You need to start becoming serious about your life, about your body, about your spirit, about your energy, about your children, about your bloodline, about your posterity and your wealth. We talk about being God beings and being sovereign and being God's in flesh, having a spiritual experience or a human experience. You need to start being serious about life. So these people who were tapped on the shoulder and had to go through a process to be proven to have this type of money, they couldn't have any type of lifestyle. No, you had to be a person of integrity. These people passed Okay, and they are the ones who will be stewards over humanitarian projects. So that's why money will be ejected into the economy to help us. But these people had to go through a clearance. I want to get back to that. Another point of Nasara is it will reduce the work week. It will release technologies that have been suppressed, and we will have something that's kind of like a universal basic income or UBI, where everybody over a certain age will have money put into their quantum accounts that they can enjoy to take care of themselves. Money that's going to be ejected into each of our accounts because we've been mistreated by the gangster banksters and by the so-called government. So everybody will have money that they can spend. XRP Lion One has talked to us extensively about that. He'll come back on April the 4th. You can ask him more questions about how that money is going to be ejected into each of your accounts. All over the world, we will have money in our accounts. Now, let's get back to why you need to be a benevolent being. So many people are concerned. Why do I have to have my heart scanned? I don't know if your heart has to be scanned in order to have access to your funds. I know some people say that. XRP Lion One, he believes that emphatically, and I respect that. I don't have a problem with a heart scan. I don't think this doesn't have to do with the New World Order. The NWO and all those nefarious entities have already been dismantled. All you see now operating actually is their minions, and most of them have been taken off the planet and or have been sent to Guantanamo Bay, and they've been judged. But you still have minions. You still have people on the planet who have been infiltrated, who have been tainted, so to speak, by the mainstream media, by these idols that many of you worship, by these entertainers and athletes who tell you what to do. So in your opinion, it's a good idea to do because this is what the athletes do. Now, a lot of us have been influenced by that. We've been influenced by the education system, which is being dismantled right now as we speak. The United States Department of Education is being defunded. It will no longer be in power. So you're going to have to learn. I'm going to have to learn how to educate our children. Let's get back to being good stewards. Just like those people who were contacted in the 70s and the 80s and 90s, tapped on the shoulder, or they had to apply to have access to this humanitarian funds that's going to be ejected to the economy so that they created projects. They had to go through a clearance. Now, some of you we don't mind if you want a government job. Oh, I got to go through my clearance. I got to write down all my information. The government is serious about that. The government wants to know, where'd you go to school? Elementary, junior, high school, college. They will contact people that knew you from every area of your life, every city you moved in, every school you went to, every job you worked at. They want to know who you're married to, how many people you've been married to, how many people you've been divorced from, where did you live? Did you own the house or did you rent a house? Because there's a different mentality that comes with renters versus the mentality of an owner. That's a fact. Economists understand this. They want to know practically everything about you, not just because they want to control you, but because if I'm going to give you a job where you have high responsibilities and you have a lot of people underneath your wing or underneath your realm of influence, or some people that you have to give an account for, I need to know everything about you. Now, when it comes to a government job or working for the military, we're like, oh, I got to go through my clearance. And oh, I got a high clearance. I have the EFG, ABCD, EFG, HIJK, LMNOP clearance. Or he has a Q clearance. He has the highest clearance in the world. And you're okay with that. And we get it. And you should be examined. Why is it when we talk about having access to millions, billions, and trillions of dollars, do we have a problem with benevolent entities that are now here on the planet, monitoring the planet, making sure that we're not trafficking human beings and we're not bringing in drugs, that we're not doing things to people's children? Yes, they want to make sure that you're a benevolent human being. Yes, they want to, I don't know if your heart has to go through a scanning machine or nothing like that, but yes, your intentions will be read. Yes, your energy will be read. Yes, if you're going to have trillions of dollars because you're trading your Zimbabwean Zim for the new exchange rate, and now you're given massive amount of money, yes, You need to be cleared because we need to make sure you can handle this type of money. Listen, when people are not used to having a lot of money, things happen to our brain. We get dopamine. There are psychologists that have studied this for decades. They understand and understand this. We may not understand or understand this. I do to a degree because I have a psychology background. But this is very important for you to understand, understand, realize. Excuse me, I'm getting all types of emails and calls. That you may not have to have your heart scanned, but they will. The benevolent entities that are in control now, many of you know this and some of you don't, that we've always had non-human beings on the planet, both benevolent and nefarious, both good, benevolent, nefarious, bad. The nefarious bad entities that were controlling the planet, most of them have been ejected from the planet and taken out through portals. Now we have benevolent, good beings that are here to help humanity. These are the ones who have gifted the quantum financial system. These are the ones who have gifted us with some of the technology. Now, some of the technology, we just have very brilliant human beings that have come up with it. But we also have some benevolent entities here on the planet that will help us and are helping us. Your heart has to be weighed in the balances, so to speak. What do I mean by that? If you understand and understand the principles of Ma'at, say that when you leave here or you die or you transition, you will go through a process where your heart is weighed in the scales, like the Libra scales. It will be weighed in the scales, and in order to make it to ascend in consciousness or move on to higher dimensions, you have to have a heart that is as light as a feather. If your heart is not as light as a feather, you don't get to go to higher dimensions. According to Ma'at, according to the Christian religion, if you don't have a history of doing good, then you will not make it to heaven. Okay. You will go to a place that is not beautiful, that is not pleasant if you have a bad heart. There are other religions that talk about where you will go, whether it be in this flesh or ascending consciousness if you are a benevolent person versus if you are a bad person. Likewise, we are ascending in consciousness to higher dimensions or to other dimensions. Some of us have already gone to 4D and 5D, while many of us are still stuck in 3D. That's why you see people still fighting and arguing over race. They're still fighting and arguing over money. They're still stuck in a third dimensional reality where they're fighting about men against women and, just arguing all the time, and they have low vibrational frequencies. Then you have those of us that are talking about love, joy, peace, unity, families, ascending into consciousness, reaching our God selves, becoming highly self-actualized, becoming the best version of ourselves, having love, having a life and a personal experience with being God on earth. Those of us who speak like that have already ascended to different dimensions. So you're talking about moving us from 3D to 4, 5, 6, 7 higher dimensions. When you have those people moving to higher dimensions, you have to ensure that when you release money, when you release wealth, they will go about creating humanitarian projects for the benefit of everybody on the planet and not do anything nefarious with that money. Now, who will have access to the money that's been ejected into the economy? Everybody on the planet, seniors. We all, doesn't matter about your race. It doesn't matter about whether or not you're wealthy already. It doesn't matter about ethnicity, nationality, what country you come from, what bloodline you have, as long as you have a good heart. So when we say you have to have a heart scan, that might be literal, but I look at it from not necessarily literal. It may be literal, but from another standpoint, figuratively speaking. But I will tell you that they do say that our behaviors and what we do with the money is going to be monitored to make sure we're not trafficking. Each of us will have our own accounts, and our own accounts will only be accessed by you. Your account will be accessed by you, Cheryl. Your account will be accessed by you only, Child of Light. David Duffy, only you can access your account. Frank, only you can access your account. Kia, only you can access. I can only access my account because it will read your energy signature. How they will do that, I'm not sure. But I just wanted to bring that out because people have asked me, yes, higher beings are here to just do something real quick. Don't be long-winded, they said. They really wanted me to do a recording of the benefits of Nasara, but I just wanted to bring this to the family live, just in case anybody has any questions or any thoughts, or you wanted to share information back and forth to each other. Yes, figuratively sounds more like it. It might be a figurative way, or they might read your energy signature. So that's about it in terms of Nasara. Let me make sure I answer all the questions. I explained why this will happen, what to expect. Yes, the homeless people will have access to their funds, to their money. Absolutely. How will people be alerted? That is a great question. Thank you for asking that question. What we've been told is that we might have some type, I don't want to say a shutdown, but we're going to have, and let's just say an emergency broadcast system announcement, better known as the EBS. This EBS announcement will come on all the phones, all the radios, televisions, and it will alert us that we all need to be in. It is a way for the president to make an announcement. So a presidential EBS, or presidential emergency announcement broadcast system announcement, was created so that presidents can make an announcement, or they can publicize something, or they can give a speech by going in a way that they can circumvent or work around mainstream media. We did have a test of the presidential EBS system October the 2nd, 2018 at exactly 2:18 p.m. I remember that. They told us it was going to happen. I made that announcement. I did report that, and I said, watch, and it did happen. And the reason why we had that was to test the emergency broadcast system programming that we have here in America, and to let we patriots that are in the know that we're on course. So they had that testing under 45. What they're going to do is they're going to have an emergency broadcast system announcement. Everybody will get it. We will be in for a certain amount of days. And during that time that we're in, you're going to see a program to come on your television. And if you don't have a television, you'll be able to watch it on your phone. You'll be able to watch it on your computer, talking about how our planet has been usurped by nefarious bloodline families and their human minions. We will actually see that. We will see public arrest. Some people might see some other type of judgments. I personally don't want to see any hangings or anything like that. So I hope they don't do that, because I have grandchildren. But you will see public arrest. You will be told who the real president is, or the commander in chief, which is 45 under the United States Incorporated. But now 45 is the president of the republic. He's the 19th president of the republic. You will be told that. You will be told about how 46 usurped, he and his administration usurped power from 45. Even if it was just done figuratively, it actually looks like it was a literal thing that he did. But you'll be told about all that, what happened at the polls. You'll be told about how banksters have done things unlawfully against us. You'll be told about a lot of crimes against humanity that have occurred. You'll be told about how the VP is not lawful, and how number 44 was not lawful because they are not from America. You're going to be told a lot of the stuff that your conspiracy theorists, friends, and family members have been saying, and some of you and I have been saying. We're all going to be told that during the emergency broadcast system announcement, or the EBS. We'll all be able to see it. It'll play out like a movie over a course of days. Now, it may be that the banks are closed. You might not be able to withdraw money, because at the same time, what we're witnessing now is the dollar plummeting and devaluing. I've done so many broadcasts on that. I don't want to bore your patience, but this is happening all over the world where people are dumping the United States dollar, which was the world reserve currency, meaning that all over the world, in order to get oil through OPEC and through Saudi Arabian nations and dynasties, they all over the world, people had to trade with the United States dollar because of our agreement with Saudi Arabia that we will protect the Saudi kingdom and all your oil mines and all that over there in Saudi Arabia. As long as you give us the oil, we'll protect your kingdom, and we will force all other nations to trade using the United States dollar. That gave us a hegemony, financial, economic hegemony. That means that we had control, we had power, we were the leaders, we had our dynasty over here. And if all these nations did not do what we said, trading with the United States dollar, then we would send the military over there and we would decimate their economy. We would put sanctions upon them, would decimate their economy through war and through sanctions, and we would completely eliminate or annihilate their leaders. We were, when I say we, I mean the United States Incorporated. Over here, we had dominance. Well, that has all been challenged through Putin, who led the BRIC Union. Now, once he dropped the United States dollar, that meant that the United States dollar decimated and it lost its value. Then he started trading with the Russian ruble, which was backed by gold. And this is why in 2022, the Russian ruble was the highest performing currency in the world, in the nation in 2022. So the Russian ruble might be something that you should consider in terms of having one of the, one of the currencies to hold in hopes that it will revalue. So once he and the BRICS Union actually left the United States dollar and dropped it, then Saudi Arabia joined, and now they were called Saudi BRICS. When you saw Saudi Arabia join the BRIC Union or the BRICS nations, then they became Saudi BRICS. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Now you have about 45% of the global population that had left the United States dollar. After that, when they saw that Saudi Arabia had joined BRICS, the BRICS nations, then people said, you know what? America did not send bombs or nuclear weapons over to Saudi Arabia or to Brazil, Russia, India, China, or South Africa. Countries became empowered. Their leaders became courageous and empowered. And so they all simultaneously just dropped the United States dollar, which further devalued our country, which made us lose the global and financial hegemony. That meant that the world reserve currency status that we held was now leaving America. So let me see if I could find something that I wanted to show you here. And I know this is supposed to. So speaking of BRICS, and the BRICS nations, there was this gentleman that actually coined the terms BRIC. This gentleman is the former chief economist of the United States. He coined this acronym BRIC. This is before South Africa joined. This was between Brazil, Russia, India, and China. He talked about how he not only formed the union, but now this article was just published today, actually. He's urging BRICS. This gentleman who coined the term BRIC is urging other nations to expand BRICS or to join BRICS in order to challenge dollar dominance. And I brought this up because it's interesting that they just published this article on today. And this article was published in Business News because you and I have been talking about this for a long time. We've been talking about how people are joining the BRICS nations. So by the time they put this information out in the mainstream media, it's already happened. It happened a long time ago. Remember, Project Sandman was an agreement between 209 nations to return to the gold standard and to return to global peace. Project Sandman also said that when triggered, country after country would drop the United States dollar, therefore forcing the United States dollar and all dollar-denominated assets to plunge to zero. I've been reporting on this since 2017. Mainstream media is just bringing this out March 29th, 2023. Years later, 6 years later? But I just want you to see that it is happening. So when people say Nasara is not happening, there's not going to be any global peace, there's not going to be a return to the gold standard. It's just that they're ignorant. They do not know. We know this is all a part of Nasara. This is all a part of Project Sandman. This is all a part of those dynasties, the what they call Red Dragon Society and all these dynasties. The Chinese dynasty bloodline family, the Dragon family, is not the only family that's planned to help liberate humanity through all the gold and resources that they have. Dynasties all over the world have decided that they were going to do this. They've been talking about doing this for decades, for centuries. And they've been not only planning it, but they've been executing it. And now we see it happening. So that was a gentleman. I don't know if I told you his name. His name is O'Neill, who urged the BRICS nations to expand. But this information is old news. Andy Schectman, the CEO of Miles Franklin, which is a precious metals company, has come on many times and talked about the BRICS nations and how they are growing. So after this is finance.yahoo.com news. So after Saudi Arabia joined the BRICS Union, then you had other countries that joined the BRICS Union, right? You had Iraq, you had Iran, quietly behind the scenes. You had African nations, Zimbabwe and Ghana. You had Central America, South America. And I reported this last year. I said all exporting nations have dropped the United States dollar for trade. The only countries that are trading United States dollar is United States, here in North America, Mexico, and Canada. I said that last year, but the news is just now trickling through the mainstream media so that the normies can wake up, so that they can go ahead and completely implode this financial system and completely dismantle the United States Incorporated and the pseudo or neo Roman Empire. So this is something I wanted to show you. A famous market watcher, the person who talked about and who called and predicted the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008, is now warning that the stocks are about to crash. He says it is the highest probability since the CV, since the global pandemic. They're called, all economists now, many I should say, and market watchers are saying we're about to have a huge stock market crash. And I'm going to leave this for you in the description section. I just want you to see. I'm not only saying that. Andy Schectman is not only saying that, but now it's in the mainstream media outlets. This was published just yesterday at 3:31 p.m. This is a 3-minute read. I'll put it in the description section for you to read at your own discretion. All I want you to see is that is happening. So what Andy Schectman told us was, what made us have the world reserve currency status was that we had an agreement with Saudi Arabia. But once Saudi Arabia joined BRICS, joined that union to leave the United States dollar and return to gold for trade, that was it for the United States. That was it for having dollar dominance. So people all over the world are dropping the dollar. At the same time, you see banks, their stocks are crashing. You see the stock market watchers now saying we're about to have this great big stock market crash, which we will. So family, we're about to see a complete decimation of the financial system while we're getting ready for the emergency broadcast system announcement that will tell us about the republic being restored, that will tell us about these nefarious bloodlines that overtook the world and how they're being arrested and how these people have been judged and how these people have been forced to step down. At the same time, we're preparing for this great big announcement. You have the banking crises. You have stocks crashing and plummeting and stocks from major corporations tanking. You see people dropping the dollar. You see people all over the world doing bank runs, meaning that they're pulling money out of the bank. They want their money to be safe and protected. They don't know what's going to happen. All they know is that they see stocks plummeting. They know what happened in 2008 when they lost their retirement accounts, got big hits, right? And a lot of people lost tens of thousands of dollars. So people who are alive during that time and people who are whether in business or they had stocks or they had retirement accounts, they know what could happen. Because I am Hebrew, I know about the Shemitah. I understand and overstand David Harbinger's book. Was it David, can't think of his last name, book called The Harbinger, excuse me. I know that during a Shemitah cycle, which is the end of a 7-year cycle, there's always some type of financial crisis or some type of collapse or stock market crash. We are in a Shemitah cycle. The Shemitah, what is the Shemitah? When the children of Israel came out of Egypt or out of slavery, God or Yahweh, the God of the Hebrew people, told them, count count 7 years, a series of 7 years, count a cycle of 7 years, count 7 years. On the 7th year, you are to have a release or a letting go. That's what Shemitah is called. It means release or to let go. They were told on the 7th year, you let go your slaves, or you let go people who owe you. You free them. You have a jubilee. You just completely cancel their debt. So every 7 years was a jubilee cycle, was every 7 years. And then on the 50th year, it was a time of celebration. Do you know that we've always had a Shemitah cycle, even here in our time? So I looked back from the time the children of Israel came out of 7 years. I didn't look back that far, but I said, okay, let's look back to the Great Depression. There was a financial collapse then, right? In about 1929, 1930, there was a collapse. 7 years later, there was a financial collapse. 7 years later, on the 7th year, when they were supposed to have a releasing and a letting go and canceling debts and have a jubilee, instead, these nefarious people in power decided to have a financial collapse or some type of crisis. We look back, even Andy Sheckman, when he came on the show, he did the same thing, because I had done it on my show, but he did the same thing, talking about how at every 7th year cycle, there was indeed some type of financial crisis, because those people in power didn't release us. They didn't let us go. They didn't cancel the debt like they were supposed to. We are now in a Shemitah cycle. So we looked at the Great Depression, and 7 years later, we even said, okay, let's look at 2001. That was a 7th year cycle. That was a Shemitah. They were supposed to have a releasing, a letting go. 9/11. We were supposed to have a Jassara announcement coming from the Pentagon. We didn't. They didn't let us go. They didn't have a release. They had a financial collapse. 7 years later, 2008, we saw the same thing with the housing bubble bursting and the crises. So O'Neill, who called that crisis and knew it was going to happen in 2008, he knows it's going to happen. But in 2022, that cycle 2008, it happened again in 2015. He knew that 7 years later, between 2022 and 2023, during the Shemitah cycle, he can call it, because he understands and overstands history and how these people operate. This is how I'm able to call it. This is how Andy Sheckman is able to call it. When you study history, you know how these people operate. So we're going to have a collapse. That's why they're calling for a collapse, a market crash. I've been saying this for years on this platform. It is going to happen. Do not be reactionary. Be proactive. What are people doing to prepare? Okay, so before I talk about preparation, this is all a part of Nasara. The Shemitah, the Jubilee, the canceling all debt, credit card debt, bank debt, mortgages, all that. All debts will be canceled out. All of that. But before you have that, you still have a nefarious system that has to be dismantled. At the end of every empire, family, they rack up all the debt. They spend up all the money. They print up as much as they can, and they spend it up. Then they crash that system. You can literally foresee, predict, and prophesy what they're going to do based on what they've always done. And then they dismantle that system. They print up all the money. They rack up all the credit. They spend up all the debt. Then they crash the system and they move to a new system, or a sound monetary system. It's called the crack up boom. Look up crack up boom. They've always done it. Remember January 19th, 2023, this year, Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, announced we've reached the debt ceiling. We're going to have to take extreme measures to reconcile the debt. When she said that, I said, they're about to destroy what I've been saying for a long time. They're going to destroy it. I told you when the Shemitah cycle started September 25th, that we started a Shemitah cycle. This is the end. This is the 7th year of a Shemitah cycle. Something's going to happen between September 2022 and September 2023. I said that. You can look at my videos. But when she said that we've reached a debt ceiling, we're going to have to take extreme measures. I said, here we are. It's going to happen. They explode that system and they move to a sound monetary system. It's going to happen. How do you prepare for a stock market collapse? You protect your retirement accounts. Yes, everything you have in savings and your retirement accounts, which are stocks or bonds. Yes, they may be protected or mirrored on a new quantum financial system. But what happens when you have a financial collapse and a stock market collapse and something this big is you will have something something on the lines of what Jim Rickards called an ice 9 scenario. That means everything will freeze, everything. So when all these countries around the world drop the United States dollar, the dollar plunged to zero or near zero, and every dollar denominated asset, everything tied to the United States dollar will plummet to zero. Then what will happen, Jim Rickards says, is an ice 9 scenario where everything will freeze. There'll be no banking transactions. The ATM cards may not work. Your EBT card may not work. Everything will freeze. So while the nefarious people may have planned for this to happen and they actually orchestrated, it will happen for our benefit, because we will then bring up a new system based on sound money and based on gold. During that time when everything freezes, everybody will probably be in their houses watching the emergency broadcast system announcement on their phones, their computers, and their televisions, letting us know about all these nefarious activities that had gone on and how the white hats of the military are dismantling or have dismantled the entire system all across the globe, taking down this web of deception, these nefarious governments that have trafficked people, enslaved us, exacted usury and interest rates on us, practiced and nefarious banking practices, done harmful bad things to our children. You'll be looking at this on your devices during the emergency broadcast system announcements. Now, at the same time, all this is going on, you see a supply chain interruption. This is why it's taking weeks now to get your products and your goods delivered to your home instead of a day or two. It's taking weeks because we're having supply chain issues. People aren't showing up for work. We've had supply chain issue since the shutdown. It takes even longer to get your precious metals sometimes, right? So you have a supply chain interruption going on. You have stores running out of supplies because of the supply chain interruption. You have stores running out of supplies because a lot of their stocks have plummeted. You have stores running out of supplies because a lot of their CEOs have actually been taken out and judged at that place that called Guantanamo Bay. These are the things that they won't talk to you about. But when you're in the house during this emergency broadcast system announcement, you will hear all these things going on while the whole world freezes, while perhaps your bank account, you may not be able to get money out the bank. Your ATM card may freeze. People are already making bank runs, meaning they're taking their money out the bank. Even people that have less than 250,000. I don't have nowhere near that. I don't probably even have 10. I don't even have, dang, I don't even know if I have 1%. Let me not, but I don't even have that. But I'm not leaving my money in the bank, just enough. This is not financial advice, just enough to pay the bills and run the business. Other than that, I'm protecting what's mine. I'm protecting what my children are going to have. I care about my posterity, even if it's just a few dollars. Even, I'm not leaving anything in a safety deposit box because they can steal it. This is just me. So you have a lot of people that think the same way, that's taking their money out of the bank. So during this time when everything freezes and you're sitting at home, they might have a some type of curfew. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I'm just guessing. They could. They do have, we already know they have National Guard on the ground because we're under a military operation right now. The commander-in-chief is 45. Doesn't matter who likes it, who doesn't. That's just what it is. He's already been inaugurated as the 19th president of our republic. but the military is in charge. You should follow Derek Johnson. If you don't know about this, Gold Star Mother Susan Price did a great video. I'll put that in the description section, talking about all the documentaries, videos, documents. You can read all that to see what's really going on about the military operation. You're going to learn all about that. People, if we're not under, if we don't have a curfew, we're not under a curfew, people are going to rush to the stores. They're going to run to the banks. They're at the last minute. They're going to be just kind of like freaking out because all the things we've been saying is now going to be made public knowledge. So how are they going to respond when they freak out? They're going to rush to the stores. They're going to try to get their cereal, their cigarettes, their alcohol, their milk, their water, their toilet paper, their flashlights, all the things the preppers been telling us for decades to prepare for. The normal people that they call the normies, or the everyday people who don't know about what's going on, who laughed at you and me, they're going to run out and be really upset about a lot of this, because information about the so-called cure, that sickness that they had and they made everybody take this cure, information about that and about these side effects and what it has done to us, it's going to come out too. We don't know how people are going to respond. So all I'm saying is, when that happens, people are going to take to the streets. They're going to rush to the banks. Some people are going to be upset with the doctors at hospitals. They're going to be upset with CEOs of banking. They're going to be upset about what the things that have been taught at schools, all the stuff they socialized us to accepting, to doing things to our children, changing their gender and stuff. When the truth comes out about that, when the truth comes out even about how they've gotten us to get rid of our babies so that they could take the blood from that and they could take their body parts and do nefarious things to it. When that information comes out, we're not going to look crazy anymore. The so-called normies, I don't even like using that term because it could be derogatory. The everyday people who just have no idea what's going on may lose it. So what am I saying? Prepare. Do not be reactionary. Do not wait till the last minute. Get your food, get your water, bring your family members home. Restore relationships, because even if you don't have a lot of money, you have relationships. That's the greatest currency. To me, that's the greatest thing you can have, is yourself, your higher self, your God, your creator, and your family and relationships. Build relationships, restore relationships, be forgiving, forgive other people, forgive yourself, ask people to forgive you. Because a lot of us say, I have a hard time forgiving other people, but we forget that we need to be forgiven as well. We need to have people to forgive us for our transgressions, for our mistakes, for things that we may have said or done, sometimes unbeknownst to us, that was offensive. Get your food, get your water, get a means to protect yourself, get your family members, get your supplies, and last but not least, protect your wealth. However you decide to do it. You may decide to put it in your house. You may decide to put it in your bra, on your possession. I don't know. You may decide to put it in a safe. You may decide to put it into precious metals, like a lot of people are doing. Do you know that people are running out of product, that wholesalers of precious metals, silver and gold, they're running out? Do you know that even dealers are running out? That's why when you go online and you look up constitutional silver, like my friend and I did yesterday, because he was telling me it's good to have silver coins and bars, but you need constitutional silver too, what they call junk silver. Almost everybody is out of stock. Miles Franklin is not out of stock, but other places are out of stock. Why? Because the big money, and even people that don't have big money, they're protecting their retirement savings. They're protecting their savings. They're protecting their wealth. How can you do that? You can roll over your greenback dollars into precious metals. You can take your money, your dollar, which is worth nothing now, buy silver and gold, or rolling into or invest into silver and gold, and it will maintain its value. It will not decrease in value. You can go to your local coin shop, or you can contact Andy Schechtman of Miles Franklin by emailing info@milesfranklin.com. Ask them, what do you have in stock? What can I have a list of your inventories? What are the prices? Can you teach me how to roll over my retirement account into my IRA? If you're interested, can you tell me about storage? What type of storage units do you have? Will that be insured? Which it will be. Uh, what about geopolitics, Andy, or the brokers, which all his brokers are either family members or friends that he went to high school with or grew up with? Can you tell me about geopolitics? How are these laws affecting my money? You know, because at the bottom line, it's about I have to protect my wealth because I'm concerned about my posterity. I'm being a good steward. The scripture says that a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. The latter part of that says, and the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous, is set aside. So a lot of these nefarious people who have done bad things have had their money's frozen, their assets frozen, and that will be ejected into the global economy for humanitarian purposes, excuse me. But whatever you have, if you have a house, if you have money, if you have retirement, stocks, bonds, protect it. One way to do that is to put it in precious metals. Contact Miles Franklin if you are so inclined, info@milesfranklin.com, and they will help you to make a purchase. You all can say that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you, and that's just so you can get the best prices in the industry because I am an affiliate. But if you're not inclined to do that, family, yes, I am an affiliate. Yes, I believe in precious metals. Yes, I sell precious metals, but it's not just about that. Many of you who have been following me for years have been saying, Kia, you're giving away all this free information, but we don't know where to go. We don't know where to go to get silver. We don't know where to go. And I would just say, go get it. Go find it. Go find silver. I don't know where to tell you. Just go to your local coin dealer. But now local coin shops are running out of product. So call your local coin shop before you even contact Andy Schectman and see what they have in store. Google coin shop near me, coin dealer near me, numismatics near me, and see what they have in stock. Once you purchase from there or see what they have from there, you know, if you want to go further, contact Miles Franklin, info@milesfranklin.com, and work with the brokers there. They can help you get any silver, gold, or any type of precious metals that they have in stock. They can help you roll over your retirement account into a gold IRA. They can help you store if you need to. So all I'm saying, family, is people are running out. You can see in the comment section, they're saying people are running out. Yes, it's true. It's true, family. They're running out of product because people are trying to preserve their wealth. Now, I started out this video talking about Nasara and Jasara, and then I ended talking about gold because we are returning to the gold standard. I've been talking about this for 6 years. I was laughed at. I was called names. My life was threatened. Like, people got really angry because I said the republic's going to be restored, that Donald Trump was a benevolent person, that he was chosen by the white hats of the military to lead in this charge. I talked way back in 2016, but some people knew about this way before me. In 2017, I said Xi Jinping and Putin are working together to dismantle the dollar because they're working to bring us back to the gold standard. I knew that way before I knew that they would join the BRICS Union. But then I brought up an article in 2018 where Putin talked about returning to the gold standard. But people were not awake. They talked about me. They made fun of me. They said, well, you're talking about Trump. You ain't really black. And I said, no, I'm not black. I'm not. I'm American. I'm a nationalist. My nationality is America. I'm from America. If you want to know about my genealogy and my background, my bloodline, I'm Cherokee, or what they call Cherokee. People get offended because they say there's a real name for it. You're using the white man's terminology or whatever. I don't care. I was taught I'm Cherokee. I'm Blackfoot, if you want to know about the bloodline. But my nationality is American. I am not black. Black is a standing in law. It's a legal status. It means you have no standing in law. It has nothing to do with ethnicity, nothing to do with nationality. It's not really even about skin complexion. It's about a legal status. I'm not black. So I stood on my square and I said, no, I'm not. If you don't vote for you know who, 46, now 46, you're not black. I'm not. I'm Kia. I'm an angelic being in flesh. If you want to know my nationality, I'm American. I am a nationalist. I love my nation. I love my country, and I love humanity. I love people all across the globe. I love you all from the bottom of my soul and my heart and from the depths of my soul, which is why I stand on my square courageously and emphatically and speak the unadulterated truth about what is going on, what has occurred, and what is going to happen. And I am protected by God, by the Creator, and by Source, and all those entities that are here to protect humanity and to help us usher in this new reality. So, family, that's it. Prepare. Be ready, okay? Because we're moving to a new reality. Even the scriptures talk about Satan being chained for 1,000 years and the nefarious being the devil, the dragon, however, whatever they call it in the Bible. I would say Satan being chained, or Lucifer. I'm not sure what they called him. I think it was Satan for 1,000 years. And then we will have 1,000 years of peace. That is the era into which we are going. 1,000 years of peace, joy, love, wealth, prosperity, and happiness. So please be encouraged. Know that it's happening. Do what you can. Even if you don't have a lot of money, get with your family members. Get with your friends. Put what you have, little, whatever. Some people say I only have a little. Put that. Whatever you have, even whether it's a little or a lot, put it together with your family members so that you can have a lot too, and it will go a long way. If you have to take a second job, you have to sit with somebody who's sick to earn a couple extra dollars, do that. You have to help take care of somebody's dog. You have to take care of somebody's child. Do whatever you can, but prepare. We're coming upon a time when it's almost too late to prepare. Okay, remember the parable of the 10 virgins. That's your homework. Look up parables of the 10 virgins. 5 of them were wise, 5 of them were foolish. 5 of them were ready, 5 of them were not. The ones who were ready got to enjoy the feast, the festivities. The ones that were not got shut out. Be the wise virgins. That's your homework for today. Look up the parables of the 10 virgins. In the meantime, Gold Star Mother Susan Price, who have helped over 53 of you, I think over 55, almost 60 of you with your humanitarian projects. She will be back Friday at 10 o'clock a.m. to help you with your humanitarian projects and to answer your questions. So we're going to look at the details of your humanitarian projects. So on Friday, bring your humanitarian ideas, your projects, your questions, your pencil, and your paper, and we're going to tidy that up for you. Additionally, on April the 4th, I think it's a Tuesday. I don't know the time quite yet. I will look that up for you and I will publicize. I think it's 1 o'clock. April the 4th, XRP Lion 1 will be on to talk about how to transfer your XRP from your wallet into your nano ledger. I think that's what he said. So we have many things in between scheduled for you, family. Keep a lookout for me bringing out videos to talk about what we're going to be discussing throughout the week over the next 2 weeks. Look into my community section for any announcements that I might put up if we go that long. Okay, because April 1st is coming up. I don't believe it'll be an April Fool's. I think it's going to be an April Fest Jubilee. That's what I think it's going to be. So my name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. Remember to contact Miles Franklin, info@milesfranklin.com. Order your silver and gold. Let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you, and you will get the best prices in the nation. I love you, family, and I trust that you will make this a great day. Peace. Bye for now. I will talk to you very soon and answer your questions. Bye for now.